What you eating, girl?
I'm going to get started. Welcome to our Sunday team admin call. Today is August 23rd. So scary how August is almost over. But I wanted to, thank everyone for jumping on the call. And also welcome our guest speaker, Denise Martino. I am so excited to have you on our call. And thank you so much for taking out time on a Sunday night to join us. We all appreciate it. I know that you're going to have some awesome information for us. So anyone who doesn't know Denise, she is a 5-star qualifying coach, and she is a 1-star qualifying in her second business center. So she is killing this business. And he is also a Success Club 5 legend for 30 consecutive months. So she is not joking about this business. So pay attention, take notes, because she has a lot to teach. Denise is a full-time Beachbody coach now, but she will tell us a little bit about her journey and how that happened. She is a mother of 3, and she has so much to share, because I'm sure that along her journey she found out what worked and what didn't. So thank you again for being on the call with us. And if you can start by telling us a little bit about how you became a coach, who introduced you to the business. I know who, but what made that transition from just being a discount coach to I got to work this business now.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. As Gabby said, my name is Denise Martino. I've been a coach since December of 2010. Actually, Sally Almonte is my cousin, and I helped her become Emerald. So we both came into the business at around the same time. And as you all know, she kind of took it full force and went into it 150%, but I did not. Initially, like everybody, I started off with a discount. I was about 60 pounds overweight, and I decided to immediately, I trusted my cousin, so I jumped on it right away, and I became a coach for the accountability like a lot of us. I got results pretty quickly. I was very consistent, and I did P90X. I completed it. Then I moved on to Insanity. And so although I believed in the community, at the time I was living in Florida, I was always very connected to team calls. However, I just, at the time I was working full time. I was pretty happy at the job that I was in. I am in social services. I've worked for social services with various communities for about 17 years now. I have a bachelor's degree. So, in retrospect, thinking back, I'm thinking, my thoughts are that I didn't really take it very seriously because I was comfortable and because I went to school. So that was, you go to school, you might as well, you're paying student loans off. You might as well do what you went to school for. So at that time, my mindset wasn't really about the business. I had helped people along the way. I gave a lot of free advice. I had free groups going on, and I did a little bit here and there to kind of cover my shakes. But it wasn't really until I decided to move from Florida back here to New York. I'm from New York, so I decided to move back. And at that time in Florida, I was working for helping homeless veterans. And basically, I became really burned out with the industry that I was in. I had worked with abused children. I had worked with homeless, with mentally ill. And I just kind of got to a point in my life where I felt like I felt burned out. I felt like the system was kind of working against me. I felt like, although I did feel very passionate about the type of work that I was doing, I felt like the system was working against me. So as much as I this idea of becoming an entrepreneur and a business owner to me was very foreign at the time, I did see that a lot of my Team Eagle mates, including my cousin and various people on the team, I saw that they were being very successful at it, and that, I noticed that people were quitting their jobs, and I'm like, I was kind of fighting with the idea, kind of going back and forth with it. But it was once I decided to make that move from Florida to New York that I realized that, you know what, I'm sitting on something, on a huge potential here. I'm sitting on a gold mine. I feel like a lot of us come into this business with, I want to call it baggage. I mean, we all call it baggage, right? So we come into this business with a lot of experiences. We're all different. A lot of us, there's some of us that need to delve into different types of personal developments than other people do. I want to say that I had a lot of baggage. And it wasn't really until I really dove into the personal development that I realized that a lot of that stuff was holding me back in a lot of ways. So I'm saying this to you because it all just started to kind of click to me. And it wasn't until I decided to make the move. My husband was transferred. He jumped on a transfer back to New York. I was really excited about the opportunity to come back to my family and my friends. And I took that leap of faith. I had been someone who had worked since the age of 15 years old. I mean, that's what we do. Always been pretty independent. And I took that leap and decided to come back. My husband gave me kind of a year to get it together in terms of the business. In the meantime, during that process, during those years, I want to say, although it took me a while to really get going with this business, but I was still going through the motions. I really started to connect with my story, which is so important. And I feel like a lot of us don't really do that. So I'm going to take it a little step back. What I did is my coach actually pushed me to do this. She had me write down my story. And it took me about 6 months to do that, to write down my story, because, again, I had a lot of baggage. So everything just started kind of it started like almost piecing together. So as I wrote down my story, I started to understand, well, why is it that although I'm not in this Beachbody stuff 150%, there's still something inside of me that says, go for it. So I was really torn for a little bit. I wrote down my story, and I want to say that my story was in little bits and in little pieces, right? So my first why was really because I have various illnesses in my family. Diabetes. I had gestational diabetes myself. And as I started writing this down, my story, I started to understand, okay, why is it that my heart and my soul is kind of leading me to Beachbody? That was one piece of it. As I wrote down my story, I don't know if Gabby wants me to really go into in a little deep about it, but I guess what I want to say is that it's really, really important to do it. I noticed that my story began to kind of transform itself as the more that I connected with it, the more comfortable I got with it. And just briefly, my dad's an alcoholic. I grew up in an environment where I was kind of the caretaker for everybody, taking care of my mom, taking care of my siblings, my dad. So again, piecing that together to my story, I understood why I had this thing inside of me where I really wanted to help women. I wanted to help women become more independent, feel empowered. It was something that was kind of driving me, and I still kind of didn't get it until, again, connecting with my story. I began to share it with my team. I began to share it with people and my coach. And it evolved. It almost like evolved, Part of that is that my daughter is she's 9 years old now, but my daughter is overweight, and she is. I'm always going to have to kind of monitor her weight. I'm going to have to. I'm always going to have to kind of be on, just be on top of her in terms of that. And that was another big driving force for me. So being a role model to my daughter, really, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Being a role model to her, she was also diagnosed with ADD. So when I when I made the decision to move back to New Jersey, I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to give this 150%. And again, it's in pieces because it's so much. My story is so like huge, but I wasn't there in the beginning. Like this is all me connecting the dots, right? Because the power of your story, it's really deep. And the reason why you have to really get connected to it, because honestly, that's the only thing that's going to motivate you to really, really want this business. It really, really is. It's not going to be the money. It's, yes, we want to help people, but why, right? We always want to kind of understand why. So for me, it was really, really important for me to get a good understanding as to why I was still motivated and still wanted this business so bad, although I had setbacks, right? So I say that because I've been a coach for 5 years. And, I know I have a lot of people, asking me like, hey, well, you started when Saudi started, So, but like I said, not everybody's alike. And for me, I have learned to embrace my story. I've learned to embrace the fact that everything that I went through, that whole process of piecing everything together and kind of understanding what was holding me back, that whole process, for a little bit, I was beating myself up for it and I was comparing myself to other coaches, but then I stopped doing that, right? And I'm saying all of this because that's everything that kind of happened, which led me to where something just clicked for me, right? And once all of it clicked for me and I stopped comparing myself, I embraced my story, I embraced the fact that I made a lot of mistakes, things really started to change and my business really started to grow, right? So that was around 2.5 years ago. I moved back. I decided to do this full time. For me, a huge piece of it was that I needed to be home with my kids. My daughter needed me home. My daughter's been diagnosed, like I mentioned, with ADD, ADHD, and she just wasn't getting the type of care that she needed in an after-school program. And that's where she was when I was living in Florida. So I knew that I had to do something and I had to be home. And I commend you ladies that have kids that work a lot of hours and have to come home to do homework and take care of your kids and take care of the house, because it's hard work. It is really, really hard work, right? So that was a huge motivating factor for me, was my daughter. So me piecing everything together, piecing my story, at the end of the day, it came down to, I want to be home with my kids. And that is what helps me wake up every single morning and treat this business like a business. I treat this like a job. And that's again where my mind began to shift. And I'm gonna, I could be on here for hours with. I can be on 4 hours with you guys just sharing, but it's really it's a lot. My story is very deep. So I want you all to, at the end of this call, whenever you can, start writing down your story, okay? Because a lot of us say that we come into this business because we want to help people, but there's really more to it. And you have to really, really be connected to it. And it's going to take time. For some people, they can connect to it right away, and that's awesome. But I did not connect to my story right away. I didn't understand, what kept me going and why I was so driven. And it wasn't until I wrote it down and I shared it. So as time passed, I moved. I was here in Jersey. I was so excited to be part of Team Eagle. I was attending events. I was in it. I was in it. So it really energized me. It really made me feel like, okay, I'm part of something really big here, really huge. So it was at that time I decided that I was going to give this business my all. However, there were still things holding me back. So, as I continue with the personal development, 6 Figures in 6 Months was a book that really, really, really did it for me. And I know that you hear this often, and I kind of don't want to go too much into that, but you got to do your personal development. You have to. Doing personal development is what's going to help you really get connected to who you are. It's going to help you get connected to your experiences and how they've led to you becoming the person that you are today. And for me, it wasn't until I read 6 Figures in 6 Months that I understood that I had a choice. I did not have to allow my past determine who I am here moving forward, right? And again, making another connection, that was holding me back, because what I was doing was, when I first started this business, I didn't really want to connect to people. I wasn't getting people on the phone. I didn't want to hear people's stories. I'm like, well, why do I want to do that? I was doing that for a living. I was a case manager, talking to people and their problems. So it was actually holding me back. And it wasn't until I did the 6 figures in 6 months that I understood that, you know what, from here moving forward, I'm just going to make a decision that I'm not going to allow all that crap that led to me, you know, being bitter or whatever. You know, I had attitude all the time. I was always like upset and like irritated. Like I didn't get what was going on, but it was that all that baggage that I had was still heavy, weighing heavy on me. I made a choice. I decided to lift it, and I decided that that's not really Denise. That wasn't really the true me. Right? So personal development actually helped me make that connection. And that's another thing. I'm going to move it back a little bit. Those first 2-3 years that I was a coach, I wasn't doing any personal development. I thought that I can do my own thing. Right? So that's why I kind of want to make the connection as to what led me to kind of shifting. And it was definitely the personal development. I was basically doing my own thing. I thought that I can just kind of, you know, wing it in a sense. And I wasn't really following what some of the successful coaches were doing. So I made a decision. So at that point, I made a decision that I'm going to continue focusing on personal growth. And I'm going to continue to work on me, because that person back then wasn't really me. It wasn't really the true potential. It wasn't really it wasn't my true self. So I read several books. That's, you know, Danny Johnson really did it for me. I also delved into John C. Maxwell, which is the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Definitely in terms of leadership, I in the past, I had positions where I was leading, supervising other people. So I kind of already felt like, okay, this is something that I can do. But it wasn't really until I read that book that I really learned a lot about myself. And I realized, you know what, Denise, you can be a really good leader. People look up to you. I was always one that was very, very hard on myself. So it was when people would come to me, say, Denise, I'm following you. You inspire me. It was really hard for me to accept that for some reason, right? So moving forward a little bit, 2.5 years ago, I moved. I decided I'm going to do this. I lost a lot of coaches. I mean, I at that time, I did have a diamond, which I ended up losing completely. So again, it was almost like I was still evolving and still trying to figure myself out. Like, okay, where can I make changes within myself? So if anything, if I can share that with you all, is that you always have to be constantly evaluating yourself and where you're at. And whenever something isn't going the way that I want it to go, or if I'm not reaching a particular goal for myself, I always take it back to me, because I am the only person that I have really control over. I have control over my emotions. I have control over, the people that I bring onto my team and who I'm drawing to myself. I really made a big effort to improve in terms of my social media, because I was one that initially came into this and I had no idea what Twitter was. I really was not on Facebook. I mean, it just really was not my strength. But I decided that, you know what, I had to make it my strength, right? So it really came down to decisions. And I decided that I'm going to stop bullshitting, because that's what I was doing and I'm sorry, I'm keeping it real here. I was bullshitting those first 2 years of being a coach, right? So moving fast forward, honestly, what the changes really came at the beginning of this year. So January of 2015 is when my business really began to blow up, right? And this is because for the first time in my coach career, I decided to write down my goals. And I think that's another thing that a lot of us are very fearful of. We're afraid to be very, very specific as to what you want. What do you want out of this business? Because if you're not writing it down, guess what? It's not going to happen. And my fear of failure and my fear of, really was more, it was really, it all came from me, really. I didn't want to let myself down. So I wasn't writing down my goals. I wasn't writing down, I wasn't tracking, so it wasn't until I decided, you know what, again, Denise, you're bullshitting. Take charge of your business, own your business, boss up, So at the beginning of the year, I completed that elite goal guide, which I'm not sure, maybe a few of you may be some new coaches. You may not really know what that is, but whatever kind of tracking or goal type of document you may have, use it, because I resisted it for a while and it didn't work for me. So I decided to use it. I decided to complete that goal guide. And you know what? It was freaking scary as hell, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to end the year as a 5-star elite coach, not even knowing what that meant, but I wrote it down. And I broke it down very simple, and I made sure I understood what it meant to have these elite goals. And even if I didn't make elite, you know what? I'm gonna bust my butt and I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna push really hard to at least touch that rim. Like you set your goals really, really high, and if you touch right below the rim, you're good. So that's what I told myself I was gonna do that. I was really good about completing that guide. I shared my goals with my team. That was really, really important. And I let them know, you know what? Because I had a lot of coaches that were like older, like meaning like I've had them with me for about 1.5 years. And then I had a lot of newer coaches. But I told them, you know what? I made a lot of mistakes. And I was very honest with them. I said, I made a lot of mistakes, but here moving forward, starting as of now, this is how I want to do things. And I shared my goals with my team. And I said, for the beginning, for this year, 2015, this is how I foresee us. This is where I want us to go. Are you gonna come along with me? Are you gonna come along this ride with me? And a lot of the girls said yes. And I really, through calls and all that good stuff that you guys do, I really made sure that my team understood that this was a team effort, that I couldn't do this without them. And I also made sure that I was working with them to help them get to where they wanted to be, because we can't want it more than our coaches. And that's another thing that I was kind of doing in the past that just wasn't working for me. I was wanting it more than what they wanted it. And I made it very clear that, I'm willing to put in whatever you need from me. I'm willing to do that with you. However, this is your business, so I'm only going to go as fast as you want to go. So at the beginning of the year, I made that very clear to them. And very quickly, I started to create diamonds. And I think it was because they got a better sense of the vision, and they started to believe in themselves. However, that started with me. Once I started to really believe in myself, I feel like it was like I was reflecting it. Like it was like they were like, wow, Denise, you're kind of a different person. These are my older coaches, because a few of my older coaches ended up also, advancing in rank, and they did it on their own. And a lot of it came from me believing in myself, and they saw that. And they were like, wow, Denise, like they really began to trust me much more so than before. I don't know that they didn't trust me before, but I feel like they really felt like they were part of a team. They really, I kind of built this culture where they felt like I can trust her. I felt like they trusted me as a leader. They understood where they wanted to go with this, and they truly themselves connected to their purpose and their why. And I made sure, because again, we can't want this more for others than what they wanted. So that's why it was so important for me first to get connected as to why I want this. And it took me a while. And, I stopped beating myself up for it, because for so long I compared myself. I was like, well, why is this coach came in here after me and she's here and I'm not, but I was sitting in that. And once I made a decision to not do that anymore and just accept myself for the mistakes that I made, I'm not perfect, but you know what? It's made me into the person that I am today. And I'm a rock star. Like I'm happy I had to go through that process. I had to make those mistakes. I had to lose diamonds in order for me to get to where I am today. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that, I wanted to be kind of a little further along. I had set some goals for myself in the middle of the year that I haven't quite reached yet. However, I don't beat myself up for it. And I let my team know, hey, we're doing this together. I make mistakes, however, we need to learn from those mistakes. We need to grow from them. And we got to keep it moving forward. We got to keep it moving forward. We have to develop our strengths as opposed to our weaknesses. I feel like, a lot of us tend to do that. We tend to focus more on developing weaknesses, but we really have to focus more on what are our strengths. And I also started to do that for my team, identify their strengths. And because that's what a leader does. A leader identifies strengths in their people when even their own people don't recognize those strengths. So the more that I did that, they learned to trust me more, and they have been able to create a vision and really dream big about where this business can take them. So I've been able to do that. I think more recently, my second business center went diamond really quick, and I produced a diamond from that second business center very quickly as well, because I feel, again, like we're always evolving in this business, and you always have to be open to that. I'm not the same person that I was a year ago, and I'm not the same person that I was 6 months ago. So my new coaches coming in, I feel like what I'm doing with them, because I know that Gabby wanted for me to talk a little bit about kind of the leadership piece of it. What I'm doing for them for the very, very beginning is that I'm setting those expectations. I'm helping them set those expectations immediately. So within the first 30 days, we're talking about income. I mean, we're being very specific. We are tracking. It's another thing that I also just didn't do very well in the beginning, is that I wasn't tracking my business. And if you're not tracking my business, meaning like using your business activity tracker, or even if you just need a notebook, like however you need to track your business, if you're not tracking it, if you're not writing down your goals, I mean, again, that's something that's going to get in your way. It's going to bite you in the butt. So very early on, I teach my girls how to do that within the first 30 days. And I really just kind of I help them set those expectations, and I make it very simple. Bring in 3 to 5 people in the first 30 days. And that's what these girls are doing. In terms of developing relationships, creating relationships, I feel like that's also really, really important. I do like the idea of treating my team like family, which is just really important, because you're not in this together. You're not in this alone. Don't ever feel like you're in this alone. Don't ever feel like, this one's going to maybe look at me differently, or I feel embarrassed, or I wish I was, further along in the business. It's so important to connect to your team and team events, because you're not in this alone. And whatever you feel you may be going through, someone else is going through it as well, or even maybe going through it, as we speak. So that to me is something that had evolved in terms of creating that culture of team, of family. And I'm very honest with my girls. I don't sugarcoat. If they're not doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, they know. Because sugarcoating or, patting somebody in the back, how is that helpful? So, I'm very honest with them. If their social media is not on point, then I'm pointing it out. And you know what? At the same time, I'm taking the feedback as well, because I'm not perfect. So I'm not presenting myself as, I know it all or whatever. I tell my girls, listen, I welcome constructive feedback. Let's do this together. Team calls, I also select my girls to present on team calls, because that's just another way of building leaders. And I'm assuming that, I think there's a few diamonds on this call and maybe some newer coaches, but everybody here is a leader. It doesn't matter if you have one person under you. It doesn't matter if you have 15 people under you. You are a leader, and you're on this call for a reason. So leaders are those that can identify those strengths and build their people up as you're building yourself, and build those people that are in your team, build them up as well. I wrote down a few things that I wanted to maybe to share. Let me see. Several things that I took from the book, the 15 invaluable laws of growth, one of the things that I also started to really incorporate at the beginning of the year is the fact that leaders should always be ahead. So to me, I set my goals very early on. I told myself that regardless of what was going on in my life, that I was going to reach Success Club 10 and above every single month. I've had some really rough months. Trust me, I've had a lot of life things come at me, but no matter what, I made it a non-negotiable to reach Success Club and to teach my girls how to do that, because over time, it's going to help build your business. So one of the things that I took away from the book is that as a leader, I felt like I always had to kind of be ahead of my girls, because if you think about it, when somebody is, gravitates towards you, whether it's for the fitness, whether it's for the business, it's because they're looking up to you and they look up to you in some kind of way. So something about you, they were drawn to you, right? So I decided that I was never going to stop. The growth process was never ever going to stop for me, and that I always had to be at a point where I can bring some kind of value to my team. Right? So I made it a point at the beginning of the year that Success Club was a non-negotiable. I am working towards elite, and that still looks pretty good as of right now. For the end of the year, for me to be elite, you have to have a certain amount of points. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, and then you have to end at 5-star. So I am kind of, I'm excited about it, but I'm still scared of shit. I'm scared that I might not meet that goal, but I did set some very specific written down goals for myself at the beginning of the year. And I have been able to accomplish it. And to me, I'm not a numbers girl. Like, I'm horrible with keeping stats and when they talk to me about placement and the volume and all that stuff does not come easy to me. So I literally, I made it very simple for myself. I said 5 people a month minimum and 5 coaches a month. And that's how I've been able to build my business and get to where I am today in terms of my elite points, is because that was a non-negotiable for me. And then if there were some months where I fell short, then I knew that I had to make up for it the following month. So several things that I kind of want to leave you with, and then I guess we'll open it up if anybody has any questions. I already talked about writing down goals. It's so important, guys. I know that we're scared to do it, but please write down your goals. It can just be weekly goals. It can be monthly goals, however you feel comfortable. Very specific income goals is really, really important. Having also a good understanding as to how to achieve those income goals, I feel, is important, because again, that was something that I just wasn't very clear about. And it wasn't until I understood exactly like how to make a certain amount of money per week, that's when I was able to actually explain it to my team. Because if you're not very, if you yourself are confused about some of that stuff, it's going to be really hard for you to help create that vision for your team. So, if I leave you with anything, it really starts with you. I know when Gabby asked me to talk about the leadership piece of it, I was like, I honestly sometimes I still struggle with that whole concept of I'm a leader, like people look up to me, it's hard for me to think of myself that way. But what I do, and I never ever stop, is the growth, the personal growth. I always look to see where can I improve. If something didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, I always look to changing my systems up. I am also not afraid to try different things. I'll have different kinds of calls going on. I'll have like a coach mentorship call, and then I'll have a new coach call, and then I'll kind of reevaluate and be like, oh, that didn't really work out last week. So you know what, let me try something different this week. I'm really not afraid to do that, because if you don't try and put yourself out there and step out your comfort zone, you're never going to know. You really are never going to know what you're capable of. You're not going to be able to learn from your mistakes. You have to not be afraid to make mistakes. And trust me, I've made lots of mistakes. Lots of mistakes. So you can't be afraid to put yourself out there and learn from them, and be okay with sharing with your team if you fucked up, if you messed up. Just say, I messed up, let's do this over again, guys. And they respect you more for that, and they learn to trust you more for that if you can be very open with them. So keeping it simple, tracking down your business. I talked about being totally honest with your team. I will share with you all that I'm a 4-star diamond coach. Like Gabby said, qualifying in my second business center. However, that 5-star right now, I'm kind of back and forth with it, right? I qualified for 3 weeks. I'm no longer in qualification. And I had a very serious conversation with one of my diamonds that lost it. And I had to say to her, listen, this, is this no longer your vision? I painted the vision to my team that this is a 5-star elite team, that this is not just me, because there's no way in the world that I can do this by myself. And as a leader, I want to be able to show the girls that if I did it, they can do it too. Right? So that's all about helping paint that vision for them and helping your team knock down those walls. And I don't like using this term too much, but it really comes down to a numbers game. It really does, which is why Success Club is so important, because you're going to come across a lot of coaches where this is just really not for them. And it's okay. You have to be okay with it. You have to be okay with if people come in and out your organization. You have to be okay with just learning from that and then keep it moving and find those people that want this. Find those people that really need you. Find those people that it'll come easy. I mean, it's not that this is an easy business, but you will come across those people that get it, and that want this and that are as passionate and excited about this business as you are. So if you're excited about this business, like I am, like Gabby and a few of us, Elena, then you know what? Then continue the personal growth, continue looking for those people that are just as passionate as you are, because you will find them. And if you're not as excited as of yet, then take the time to just kind of do your personal development, work on yourself. I always take it back to the 3 vital behaviors. I can't say that enough. I mean, I know we talk about it and like we're blue in the face and you guys are like, oh, but it's true. Like if your business is, if you see that your business has kind of had a setback or things are not going as, you're not reaching your goals as you had set them out, as you want to reach them, it's more than likely one of the 3 vital behaviors is not really where it should be. So that's what I mean by constant, evaluating you. You got to evaluate where you're at and how you can grow and in what areas and develop your strengths. I think that, one more thing, don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable with where you're at, because once you get comfortable, it can go just like this, So when I build diamonds or when I advance in rank or, however, I do it all over again as if it didn't happen. I make Success Club and I just strive for doing it all over again, because you can't get comfortable in this business. And I noticed that a lot of people do. If you treat it like your baby, you treat it like an investment, you set your business hours, you create that power hour. I'm sharing this with you because those are all of the things that I was not doing. I'm keeping it real. Once I started to do it, I mean, it just went fast forward. Like it's even going too fast for me right now, because I'm like, it's awesome. I'm really excited about where my team is at, where I'm at with the business. Regardless of whether I lose diamonds or not, if they stick with me, that's awesome. I hope they do. If I lose them, I'm still moving forward because I believe in this business, because I need it, because I want to be home with my kids. I need it for so many reasons. I'm very passionate about it. So you got to really figure out whether or not, this is something that you really truly want, and figure out and just dig for it. Like dig for that passion, that excitement, that, that belief. You have to have belief in this business, because if you don't, it's just not going to go anywhere. Belief in yourself as well. So I think I kind of touched up on everything. I feel like I was kind of going fast, but I swear, like I can talk to you guys for hours about my story, but we don't have that kind of time. So I think that's pretty much it. Was there anything else, Gabby, that you wanted me to talk about?
When I reached out to you and asked you to speak to us about leadership, I mean, I think over delivered as to what I was expecting.
Oh,
I think my entire team feels the same way. I've, like you said before, well, you mentioned that you had led a team in your past employment. I never led a team before, so for me, leading a team is new, and definitely working on myself is important. I'm not perfect. My team knows this. We encounter ups and downs, but I think that, all the ladies that are on this call are here because they believe in Beachbody. They know that I have the best interests at heart for each and every one of them. But I think that, you nailed everything. I mean, almost like I asked you to say everything, and it was just your story, and it was just perfect. You touched me. You were talking to me. I hope were talking. I think you were talking to each member on this team as well. I hope that they felt it the way I felt it. You are amazing. Your story is powerful, and you are a freaking rock star. You are a freaking rock star. And you are absolutely right, where we all learn. We're not all ready at the same time. And sometimes that's hard for a leader because, like you mentioned, you see the potential in your people whenever they don't see it in themselves just yet. But it is important to continue to work on ourselves and just move forward, and hopefully they will follow along. But I'm going to open it up for questions to see if anyone here has any questions for Denise.
there's a lot of stuff in the chat.
Oh no, they were just commenting
Okay.
like you're talking to them.
And I think that I wanted to go back just and touch up on some of the things that I was doing or that I wasn't doing, because I feel like, us as newer coaches, like I want you guys to learn, like also from us, us coaches that have been around, and don't make those same mistakes. And again, it's not that I beat myself up for it, but I was definitely trying to kind of reinvent the wheel, and I was really trying to do kind of my own thing. And it wasn't until I learned to appreciate and really value like the amazing resources that we have on our team, and how everybody's so willing to share. And it wasn't really until I accepted it and started to really utilize what I was learning and apply it. So I was hard-headed. Trying to do my own thing, and it wasn't working.
Hey, but you made it work, right? You realized the mistake and you corrected it and kept it moving, like you said. So seriously, amazing call. So on point. I think everyone can agree. Anyone has questions?
Yes. I have a couple.
Hi, Elena.
Hi. How do you balance, well, not balance, but how do you, I think a common mistake, because like I've never led a team or anything like that. And as I foresee my team growing in the future, I think one of my fears is becoming a person who manages versus someone who is a leader. So like I think you spoke and you touched on that a little bit. How do you, besides PD, obviously, which is the big one, how do you overcome that? How do you learn, the difference between managing and being a leader?
I think that I was definitely a manager back in the day. I think that what I started to do differently is that like I had mentioned, I started working more with their strengths as opposed to their weaknesses. And a lot of what my coach did with me is that basically she would kick me in the butt and tell me, you're going to go and speak in front of these people. You're going to go and, I think before some of you had signed on, I had done some trainings in front of like 100 other coaches. So I take that, and what I do is I do that myself with my team. So I push them to lead team calls. And at first they kind of resist me a little bit, but then when they realize that I'm doing this for their best interests, I see that their confidence begins to build up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm kind of touching on what you're wanting to kind of get at, but I really try to, what's that term? Micromanage. I really try to kind of stay away from that. The girls that are running the groups with me, I we share the responsibility. So again, I mean, I think it's all about, you know, as a leader, you are able to kind of identify certain strengths in them before they even see it. It's the same thing with our challengers, right? So I've been really working more towards building them up. And then, you know what, if they're not moving with it, then I hold back. Like, I'm not going to move as fast. I'm not going to move faster than they are. And I let them know. I'm like, listen, just to share, and I set those expectations at the very, very beginning. A new coach signs up, and I'm letting them know, I'm going to move as fast as you're moving. If you slow it down, I'm going to slow it down. So they kind of get an understanding of it. Because I'm not here to really, I'm not going to like chase people, and you want to find those people that really want this.
So how do you do that? How do you like push someone without, you know, but like in a way where you're not like forcing them, I guess? Because you're right. Like, how do you set the pace? How do you follow their pace but still be able to push them at the same time and challenge them is what I mean.
I think a lot of that comes from making those personal connections with them. You know, whether it's meeting up with them, whether it's getting them on the phone. I think that I have this ability to like, and that's a strength that I had that I didn't realize I wasn't really using it. It was a strength that I had in terms of my career, which was developing relationships and making connections with people. Once I reconnected with that, I started to really develop good relationships with my coaches. So once you do that, it's okay to say that to them. So I'm very upfront with them. And if I see that they're not moving forward, like if I'm encouraging them to do more leadership stuff, to, you know, whether it's attend trainings, whether it's, you know, growing their team, when I notice that some of that stuff really isn't happening, although they say they want it, I point it out to them. And because I want to really get to, well, what's holding you back? Because something is usually holding them back. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Because you have people that say they want it, but then are doing something else. Mm-hmm. And their goals are not really aligned with their actions.
Right.
Well, I point that out to them. And the only way that I feel comfortable doing that is if I have a relationship with them. I have to have that connection with them. I don't know if that's really touching up on what you're asking.
100%.
So I'm really upfront about that. And if they don't want to talk, and if I notice that they're kind of pulling away from some of that leadership stuff, what I mean by that is, you know, helping me run the group, maybe hosting a team call. If they're kind of shying away from that stuff, then I pull back. And to be honest, I'm not working, because it's that whole 80-20 rule. You want to really invest most of your time into those people that are showing and that are producing. I know it's kind of like, it's that balance that you have to create. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, we're in the relationship building business, but at the same time, I'm not really devoting a lot of my time into those people that are not showing and producing. You know? And you know what helped me relay that to them was, Gabby, are you familiar with the Craig Holiday calls? That 8-week Craig Holiday leadership? I did that with my team. And they understood, because one of those calls, he talks about basically spending time. He talks about how your upline needs you, but that you don't necessarily need your upline. And he really one of those calls, he really focuses on that relationship, right? I don't know if you remember that particular call. So my coaches understood that literally I was prioritizing my time. Mm-hmm. They just got a good understanding. And I feel like I have so many new coaches that I want to do that training again with them. So they started to understand, okay, if Denise is going to spend more time with me, if I'm showing and doing and working towards my goals and advancing. Because if you're working towards your goals, naturally, it means that you're advancing in this business, right? It's just, I mean, it goes hand in hand. You have goals, you set your goals for Success Club, your business is just going to grow as long as you stick to those basic goals. So I think I went off a little bit, but Elena, did that?
No, it was great.
Did that kind of answer what you were wanting to understand?
Yes, it was great. And I have
Mm-hmm.
So for my particular goals for my business, I'm in a phase where I need to be obviously growing my business. And one of the things that I'm stuck on and that my sister and I are working on is that I have a hard time with presenting the business opportunity. And I know that you said that your goal was, 5 new coaches every month. And so I'm like, how do you do that? I don't know how else to ask that question. Are your coaches on discount coaches? Are they coaches that are working the business? And if so, how do you talk to someone about that? And I don't know, I feel like I still feel weird. And I know I felt weird when I first used to talk to people about Beachbody, and now I don't. So I'm having a hard time overcoming that hump. And I think a lot of us, whether it's the business opportunity or it's just talking to people about, joining a challenge group, I think we all struggle with that.
Right.
Feeling weird, I guess.
Right.
And have any words of advice about that?
Well, I'm going to take it back to your story and your why. And it doesn't matter if, I'm not here to say that everybody's going to quit their job and make Beachbody full time. I mean, that's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do I want everybody to quit their jobs and work Beachbody full time? Yeah, but it's not for everybody. So that's why it's so important to get connected to your story. So I guess I've really taken on that whole thing of not being a holder backer, and I'm not here to judge whether or not this opportunity is for somebody. I wholeheartedly feel like it's my obligation, it's my job, my duty to share this with everybody. And it's that whole fear. I think it all also goes down to the fear of being turned down, the fear of what are they going to think about me. Once I decided to I don't care about that. I present this opportunity to everybody that I get on the phone. I'm talking to them about it, and I share it from my perspective and what I'm doing. And I say, and I give them the option. And yeah, I have a lot of discount coaches, but I have coaches, especially now, just in this past, since the beginning of the year, that want to work the business. So that comes from your story. It comes from connecting. And if you don't have a story, somebody here has a story. Somebody here on your team has a story of, and I think all of us have stories. But I think that what happens is that whether you're making $30 a month, whether you're making $5,000 a month, who are we to judge and say that those $30 a month is not going to make a difference in somebody's pocket? Like, I feel like we have to get past that. How many people do we come across that lose their jobs? So I'm not afraid. I get a lot of money objections, but you know what? I go in on those people. Hey, this is an opportunity for you to earn an income. I do. This is an opportunity. And then I share. I'm like, you know what? This is giving me the opportunity to stay home with my kids. Nowadays, yeah, my husband is earning an income, but we need 2 incomes. We need 2 income household most of the time. So I share that with people, and I'm not here to judge. I would feel bad. I think I set that upon myself. I would feel bad if I hold this opportunity from somebody, because who are we to say that this can't help somebody? Right. And if it's not for them, that's totally fine. Then I'm like, sure, and I actually say that to them. I'm like, oh, sure, I understand. I like to share this information with everybody because you never know if this is something that can help you. And by the way, do you know someone else that maybe, would be someone who can benefit from this, that you can maybe send my way? I'm very open about that when I talk to people. But that all goes back to being connected to your story, to, in terms of that's going to help build your confidence. And you have to be able to feel comfortable talking to people. You have to. You can't do the typing thing. That used to be me too. I was typing back and forth. And then I started getting people on the phone, and then they heard my passion and they felt it and my excitement about it. And even in the beginning, I wasn't making $5,000 a month, but I would share, hey, I have a lot of people, on my team that are really successful, and this is where I'm heading. So even for you newer coaches, you can share that. This is what I'm looking to do. This is where I'm heading. Fake it till you make it, girl. Fake it till you make it, because you got the vision, you know where you're heading. Even if you're not there now, share it with people. Don't be afraid, and go for the no. Go for No is also another really good book.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my first personal development books that Tony Fernandez forced me to read. Go for No. You guys heard of that book? That's a really good book too.
That's a good one.
So you can't be afraid.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You guys are awesome.
You're awesome.
And everybody's awake
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday.
That's all the green tea.
Awesome. And then you energize the stuff is pretty good too. The performance line.
Look at her. She's selling it.
Good stuff.
I have a quick question.
Huh, Elena?
We already believe. We already coaches. We know it works.
Awesome. Just in case. Don't want to be a holder backer.
Right.
Somebody wanted to ask.
Yeah, someone said a question.
I did actually. So, I mean, you mentioned Danny Johnson before, Denise. Okay, wait, time out. Thank you for being on the call.
You're welcome. Thank
Awesome.
you for having me.
But you mentioned Danny Johnson before, and I started looking into her, listening to some of her things. What about her and what you learned in terms of her PD that really stuck with you?
I think it was all the baggage that I was carrying and how I didn't realize that those first 2 years of me being a coach where I was kind of half-assing it, it was really getting in my way. And I'm not going to lie with you girls. I went to therapy. That's how messed up. You know, okay, so this is the way I see it. Like we're born into this world pure and all this potential, and we're like amazing human babies and, you know, human beings. And then all this stuff starts to get dumped on you, right? All your experiences and all the junk, and we carry it, right? We carry it through our relationships, through our experiences, through work, through life, walking around, you know, in a haze. I was walking around like a zombie just doing my job. And it wasn't until I tapped into her that I realized that I have the potential to pull all that stuff off. And not to say that I still got a little bit of baggage. I got a little suitcase kind of, you know, following me around. But listening to her also helped me realize that it was a decision. Like, yeah, my dad's an alcoholic. Yeah, my mom tried to commit suicide. You know, like I can go on and on about the stuff, which is why I got a little choked up in the beginning because I wasn't sure how much of that I was going to share with you guys. But it wasn't until I realized that I don't have to allow those past experiences make me who I am, because that's not really me. You know what I'm saying? And Danny Johnson, 6 figures in 6 months, helped me even more than therapy did. I shelled out money for therapy, and, you know, and listening to her, I mean, I listened to the complete audio that Saudi shares with us. That's what really kind of got me through to really understand that that's not me, and that I had the ability to create the person that I wanted to be, to live to my fullest potential and to really recognize my strengths. So that was really my biggest takeaway from that.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think anyone else has any questions, but we're gonna let her go free now. Seriously, you were amazing. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday night with us. We all appreciate it, and you were awesome. Seriously.
Thank you. I don't get called to these calls often. I'm always doing my team calls, but so it was an honor, Gabby, and thank you for having me. Seriously, like this is like good practice for me too, because I'm like fearful of talking in front of people. And Saudi, my cousin, threw me in Super Saturday and was like, "You're gonna present and talk in front of 1,000 people." I was like, "Oh, really?"
And
okay.
You did awesome there.
Stepped out my comfort zone big time.
And you did awesome there too. So, but like you said, it's great practice. But I think that you did amazing. You nailed a lot of topics that we've been discussing lately. So I am, you know, forever grateful for that. And you are going to definitely hit it.
I hope so.
I'm sure of that.
If I don't, I'll be close. But that's what I'm striving for. So
exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Denise.
Good night.
Good night.
No, I'm just saying.